Thank you. And I am also in sympathy and would like to dedicate this portion of the evening, of my reading anyway, to Peter Cully, to his heart and his skills. Okay, so I'm going to begin with a found poem. It's verbatim from the Kelowna Courier, January 2011. I titled it, "I was the fifth car back." I cannot for the life of me see why this has been this way so long. Why do only certain traffic lights have the left turn signals on the busiest, most used road in Kelowna? The traffic lights on those crossings with the directional lights are not long enough. Timing them, I find the majority are 4 to 6 seconds, with 3 to 4 seconds on amber. In this short window, 4 cars at most can turn left, and 2 can turn on the amber. The number that turn on red only proves the green light is not long enough for the amount of traffic wanting to turn. Is it that difficult to see? How many times have I sat in my car at Spall and Harvey, no directional green arrow, 6th car back, and had to wait another 3 minutes to catch the light? How many times have I sat fuming when the directional light turns green and the car or 2 in front of me wastes 2 or 3 seconds getting the button here? Sitting at Dilworth and Harvey recently, waiting to turn left toward the lake, there was no green arrow. I was the 5th car back. So much traffic was coming towards us from across the highway, the light turned red before the car in front of me could move. So I sat, waiting for the next green light. The light was amber before it was clear for me to turn, knowing 4 more followed me. Talk about polluting the valley with cars idling, waiting for these foolish lights to change. If nothing changes and they bring in this red light law, it is a cash cow for the city, because we are all guilty of doing this, and we will continue, I'm sure. It's human nature. Thank Wayne Harris, author poet of that poem. I'm going to read a poem that was published in the beautiful anthology. This is called The Fishing Trip, and introduces an image that has been occurring for a long time in my writing, the image of Dogfish Woman from Haida mythology. This bracelet I'm wearing was given me by my great uncle who lived on the Queen Charlotte's. My mom grew up there. I have quite a connection with this image, so you'll hear references to her in the next couple of poems. This is called The Fishing Trip. Speedometer rising on a flat, straight stretch of Highway 16. Crowded together, lodgepole pines either side whiz by, the two-tone Olds 98, windy and back. Dad adjusts the no draft, and Dogfish Woman adjusts her crown of a shark's grin and fin, tarp whumping the roof where lay the great blue tent, and hammers and pins to raise it, big top of summer, in whose gloom we blew up air mattresses, dusty odor of rubber and sharp rings of the brass nipple by the Kispioks, where dogfish swam and prized sockeye wriggled at the ends of poles and lines, tourists filling ice chests with silver bodies of fish, filleting them with sharp tools. At dusk, the frying pan, the sizzle above the blue flame of the propane element. Fairy blue, uneven blue, hyacinth. This is called Another Poem for My Mother. And I've mentioned the Masset and Haida Gwaii, Queen Charlotte's, as she called it then, connection, and also the fact that my mother came down with tuberculosis and was spent some time at the Tranquille Sanatorium, which is outside of Kamloops. So this is another poem for my mother. For the required length of time, I stayed treading water, the waters of life, amniotic, ancestral, living close to old Masset in my mother's body. Scared with her friend to go look in the trees where Haida had interred their dead, it was said, along with their jewels, bracelets, and combs. Or on the bobolink, taking supplies to Langara Island, and the long-bearded fishermen who lashed whales as ballast to the sides of their boats. On the barge, we floated past dead towns of a northern jungle. Do you love me, dogfish mother? Whose eye, whose tooth implanted in your fin? Your grin a gate of knives, your crown two long beak birds, your sad face at the end of a line. Billows and tides, storms, depths, surfaces always in motion, always changing, and she, a fish out of water in the broiling interior hinterland of Tranquille Sanatorium at age 27. What is nature? Where is mother? Who is Sue Halpern, for that matter? Did she not write a book? A book oft cited at Davos, formerly Berghof Schatzalp Sanatorium, highest of the sanatoriums. So high that in winter they had to bring the dead down the mountain on bobsleds. At Davos, where annually they try to save the world from climate change and inequality. 2. A limpid, decadent warmth in Davos in the summertime, where consumptives once lightly fried on the verandas of the Berghof Schatzalp. The magic mountain of Thomas Mann's imagination and lived in dreams and numerologies, where time was not time, but a thing. And to be there was to be a character in an opera or a ballet in which a patient might take the role of the faun in Afternoon of a Faun. A patient who'd only come to visit someone, he forgets who now, but here he is himself instead. Such is the swiftness and invisibility of contagion. In this trapped condition on the mountain, where the patients must fall in love eventually with each other or the doctor, as we do in prisons, work camps, spaceships, schools, convents, labs, offices, outposts, boats, due to proximity and a quasi-domestic dailiness, and which must be forbidden or managed, or not managed at all, through the boredom of the rest cure, or the throes of the toxic side effects of the gold cure, because gold's atoms are tightly linked, and it is difficult to force them past each other. And I'll finish with this poem, a dream poem I'm indebted to the poetry of Charles Olson for emboldening dream poems and poems about dreams and the information they carry. This is called The Receiver. In a dream the other night, I was on the phone, one of those rotary dial black desk phones, and looking out the window. A window you lift up from the bottom to stick your head outside to a nighttime scene, as in Jean Cocteau's The Human Voice. Ingrid Bergman's lover in the phone booth out on the street where cars pass in the rain. It takes him a while to dial. Coins pushed into the slot. The human voice is a one-woman show, all her side of the conversation, but I don't remember anything she actually says. There is a lot of murmuring, perhaps some pleading, some pushback. She's lying on the bed crying. They'd hang up, then the phone would ring once more. She'd lean into the receiver, her beautiful voice and mouth and breaking heart. I imagine the receiver holding the whole story inside. In my heart, a dream once presided of respite, and within that dream, the small silver key to unlock it. Respite from worries, from pleading with fate. But, as Camus insists, Sisyphus was happy, bound only to his fate and nothing else. I imagine Sisyphus glancing outward at the top of his effort to check which constellation shone upon him then, whose story fixed its fixed eye upon him. Condemned for what? I wonder. I should Google the myth of Sisyphus. And while I'm at it, the myth of this and the myth of that. People lying on the beach will tend to murmur but seldom converse. Albert Camus, author of The Stranger, Revolt, The Plague, The Myth of Sisyphus, and Summer in Algiers, says the sun is God, that we have exiled beauty, and that the body is happiest in sunshine, in a sea blue and sun yellow world. Other worlds have their charms and attractions, more nuanced and even more hopeful than the mere tans of others just off the plain from Cabo San Lucas or Honolulu. How would we know they were happy, we might ask? A tan. It was one of those rotary dial phones that sat on a credenza, the kind you always answered. These phones rang in Hollywood movies for many, many years. A dame in an evening gown would stride over, pick up the receiver, say hello, and glare at the fellow holding her ermine stole. It will be a while before everything is sorted out, and this is why it's a story. There would be whirlwinds of emotion, such as someone might feel returning from the plunge pools of Puerto Vallarta to the chilly rays of March and testamental trees' fretful, cursive branches, in which an owl might sit saying, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," and you would say, "Who, me?" And it would say, "Yes, you." You might wind up playing a role you only dreamed of, such as being a human voice in a telephone receiver, the kind you had to lift out of what was called the cradle, and replace afterwards in the cradle's prongs. When it rang again with a sharp European ring, she knew it would be him. She knew it would be eternal. So she lifted the receiver once more. Thank you very much.